politically is going to be on top of this ship. There's two types of trustees. You're right. Picard on the Madoff deal, I think he shocked everyone by actually saying, wait a minute, there's some guys who got some sweetheart deals, and he's trying to claw him back. He doesn't have much legal authority to do that. Just keep in mind, and he's only one of the big billionaires has given back the money. Actually, a guy who died, his wife gave it back, and she didn't want blood money. But in the case of MF Global, I'm worried we're going to end up with something like the BP situation, where the trustee is this guy Ken Feinberg, who's usually used as their big trustee, and he's otherwise known as the Reptile. Now, when they use Feinberg...
Greg, stay there. Let's hear about the Reptile on the other side. Great question, caller. Great question from Craig. More calls straight ahead. Okay, Greg Palast is our guest. Gary Franchi's going to pop in later in the hour. They've conducted a scientific poll, and it basically mirrored what poll showed a few weeks ago. Ron Paul is in second in Iowa behind Herman Cain. But something else was shown in their poll. We'll tell you about that. Coming up, Ron Paul is number one in one category. We'll tell you about that coming up. We've commissioned polls before. I should do another Zogby or something. Finishing, you were talking about, Greg can answer the caller's question. Caller was asking about the individual charged with doling out the funds from the bankruptcy. And you were saying that you do know the MO on this guy.
Well, I mean, what I'm saying is that this guy's halfway in between. There was the very good one, Picard, at handling the Madoff deal. But he has no real power. He hasn't been able to get any real money except from one of the billionaire's widows because the guy died. But the other thieves are still holding on and saying, that's your tough problem, buddy. Then there's the trustee like we have on BP, Ken Feinberg, known as the Reptile, right? Obama made a big deal. Oh, I've got $20 billion for you. The guy hasn't even handed out $5, and that's all he's going to give out. They made sure that deal was cut. That deal was cut to make sure that the people on the Gulf got shafted. I have a section, by the way, called Mr. Fairness in Vultures Picnic. And I say when the Energy Finance Combine needs a screwdriver, needs to screw the public, they hire a screwdriver, and the Wall Street Journal calls him Mr. Fairness. That's the type of guy you get. Now, this guy Giddens, who is handling the the Corzine operation, he handled Lehman Brothers. And I can tell you, as someone who had some Lehman in my pension fund, I ain't seen it, because one thing he didn't do is that that Barclays literally stole about $8 billion in the day of the collapse of Lehman Brothers. Just carted off $8 billion in securities, and I haven't seen this guy say, "Hey guys, excuse me, that $8 billion ain't yours. Could you please put it back?"
Well, see, that's what's incredible.
I don't trust this guy to do anything.
Well, that's what's incredible. They're robbing people's pensions, even private ones like yours, and somehow this is free market and beautiful. This is criminality, and just because they've got most of the regulators in their pockets, I don't see them being invincible in the final equation. And wouldn't the world be a better place without this? How many of these vultures are there? I mean, isn't there just a couple hundred top ones? I know Rothkopf, former head of the Kissinger Group, said there's 6,000 superclass.
That's about right. I would say in Vultures Picnic that there's about 24 really top guys, like this guy Singer, who's worth about $4 billion, who's now the Romney top economic advisors. This is what we really want. And again, I don't want to say it's just the Republicans, because you got the deregulators, the decriminalizers like Robert Rubin, who really ran the show and still is a shadow force directing the philosophy of Obama. Rubin bankrupted Citibank and got a $110 million bonus for it. So I would say, if you look in Vultures Picnic, you get kind of a list. I actually wanted people to actually get the names of these guys and see how they operate, rather than just talk about the general class.
National TV, but of course you're not. This information, though, is getting out to the alternative media that is more and more becoming the dominant media, and that's why they're now moving in with all these attacks on free speech. That's why they're acclimating us that not only torture is good, but getting rid of free speech in America is good, and getting rid of voting in Europe is good. It's truly an attempt to convert us into a global corporate dictatorship. Greg Palast, thank you so much for spending time with us. Look forward to speaking to you in the future.
Alex, you're a treasure. Thank you for getting the word out.
Thank you. All right, there goes Greg Palast, great guy. We're going to come right back on the other side with Aaron Dykes riding shotgun with us. Gary Franchi's getting us that poll.
A very wealthy U.S. citizen.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, on this November 22nd, 2011 Tuesday edition. We've got the final 52 minutes of this worldwide broadcast today. I'll be back in Austin tomorrow afternoon. I'm about to pull up stakes here and on my investigation, and boy, we discovered a lot out here. It's just amazing. I'll be back in Central Texas soon enough, joining you via phone. Normally on the road, I'd be joining you with crystal clear Skype, but here in the high desert, the internet is pretty much non-existent. We are going to get to Tom, Patrick, O'Brien, Kyle, Mike, and others. I'm going to eject here in about 10 minutes and hand the baton over to Aaron Dykes, Infowars.com, video editor, researcher, and host also of the Nightly News. We're going to also break down some of the other news developments that have unfolded, but at the bottom of the hour, he'll go to your calls for those of you holding, and then intersperse some of the other news I've not covered yet. But Gary Franchi of Restore the Republic, doing an amazing job. He, of course, also hosts the Reality Report. I think it's twice a week on television. Gary Franchi contacted us this morning. He's conducted his own poll. He's gone out and hired a polling company. Anybody can do this. I think it's a great idea to actually hire companies and then ask real questions. When I hired Zogby, though, they wouldn't even let me ask the questions I particularly wanted to ask. That's how political these groups are. But what Franchi found basically integrates in with what other scientific polls have found. But he asked another question that hasn't been asked. When he asked the question about who would you vote for, it was Herman Cain, and then in Iowa, and then, of course, it was Ron Paul, and that's what a poll showed last week. He's number 2. Same thing in New Hampshire. He's not just number 3, he's number 2. They've been desperately ignoring him, or he'd be number 1. He's the doctor with the medicine this republic needs. He's a historian, he's an economist, he's a doctor, he's got the facts. He predicted everything that was going to happen through history, through understanding. But Franchi had another question asked as well. So here joining us to go over that, and Aaron Dykes is with us also, and we'll continue the interview after I leave with Gary Franchi, is Gary Franchi. Gary, tell us how you did the poll, who did it, and read to folks, breaking it here. I appreciate you doing that. We'll get an article out, and I would imagine folks are going to be interested to see it. We'll be sure to link to your fine organization and what you're doing. The great ads you're producing are some of the best, in fact, even better than some of the Ron Paul campaign official stuff I've seen with your super PAC. You're certainly kicking globalist tail. So tell us about the new poll breaking here.
Well, Alex, thanks for having me on for this breaking story. As you know, last week, Bloomberg was the big story that there was a dead heat in Iowa. Well, this week, things have completely changed. What we've been able to discover through an independent polling company called Research out of Indiana. They've been in business for 18 years.
No, that's a respected group. That's a respected group. Please continue.
So what we discovered was not only is there a 3-way dead heat for the lead among Republicans, we factored in, we asked the pollers, we asked the people taking the poll if they were Republicans or independents and if they would actually reelect Obama. Now, if they said no, we said, okay, well then, would you consider voting in the Republican caucus? And if you did, who would you vote for? Ron Paul came in overwhelming, over the top, with a 4-point lead over Herman Cain. Okay? That means the margin of error was 3%. So even at the worst case scenario, Ron Paul has a 1-point lead. Best case scenario, 7-point lead in Iowa. There is a
by the way, I got to stop you. This integrates in with national polls showing Ron Paul dead heat or 3 to 5 points. There's a spectrum of scientific polls, Zogby, Gallup, you name it. He's either dead heat or 3, 4, or 5 points ahead of Obama when they run those two head up against each other. This is big news. Please continue.
So basically, Ron Paul leads at 25% with an approximate 4-point advantage over Gingrich and Herman Cain. Okay. Now, there was another question that we asked. I said, look, I want to know where the national security concerns are of the people of Iowa. As you know, tonight there is a CNN debate about national security. That's the whole purpose. So we asked this question. We said, where do your concerns lie? Iran, China, Russia, Iraq. And one of the answers was interventionist foreign policy. That came in at 25% of all respondents said that interventionist foreign policy is the greatest threat to national security, Alex. This is a big story.
It is, and you were gracious enough to give us the poll first. So I do believe, I'm not there, I'm in southern Utah, but I believe we have the poll there. So we're going to try to put that on screen, or if Aaron has it there in studio, we can zoom in on that. Gary, start at the top of the poll and just read through the results. Again, tell folks the company, and then run through this breaking news here.
Well, basically, the company was Teleresearch Corporation out of Indiana. And what you're getting, Alex, you're getting the early results. We're going to have a full spectrum, detailed analysis of the whole breakdown of the survey tomorrow. We haven't even had time to digest all the results, but the horse race questions are in, the foreign policy questions are in, and the definitive data comes back that Ron Paul is the leading candidate, and he is going to take Iowa because of the crossover. No other candidates, Alex, no other candidates have crossover appeal. Ron Paul is the only candidate that can actually take votes from Obama.
Incredible. In fact, Aaron has and when I did a Zogby, that's how it was. The one day I got the big first general ones, and then I got all this whole booklet of detailed breakdowns and women this, men that, black, Hispanic, Native American. I mean, yeah, they break it down just into ridiculous minutia for the focus groups and people. And see, we're doing what the big guys do. We're going out and doing our own polls. I should do more of this. I'm glad Francie's doing it. In fact, I did this for Ron Paul back in the last election 4 years ago. So great job. I think it cost us $5,000. Like, this is, really gets the word out. But Aaron's got it. Aaron, read that preliminary data or not even preliminary, that first run of data with the big horse race questions. Read that on air.
I have says new Iowa poll places Ron Paul firmly in first with 25%. Congressman Ron Paul is leading by a significant margin in Iowa, according to results from a new Teleresearch poll. Revolution PAC supported the presidential candidate Ron Paul by conducting the poll, and it gets into how disaffected Democrats and independents were also included in the poll with a very large sample size of 2,900. I believe the standard polls only use 1,000 normally, Alex.
1,001, yeah.
And that includes also in this 2,900 sample, 700 likely Republican caucus goers. So that is an across-the-boards sampling of the Iowa voters.
All right, I want to be specific, though. Gary Franchi joining us from restoretherepublic.org. To be clear, you did poll Republicans by themselves, then you did a general poll and found he was even over the top. He's in a dead heat with Republicans, not second place, dead heat. But we now know other side of the polls, they claim he's second place, but that's how they spin him. Our own internal info shows he's way over the top as number one. But you're saying Republicans, he is dead heat, but you're saying that with across the board, he's winning.
Yeah, and just to be clear, Restore the Republic did not commission the poll. It was the Super PAC, the Revolution PAC, that commissioned the poll.
No, I understand. I'm just plugging the fact that you also run Restore the Republic.
Yeah, and what's interesting here is that, like you just noted, 1,000 is generally the sample size. We went beyond that. We got almost 2,900 actual respondents. We've actually significantly one-upped the Bloomberg survey because we have actually more Republican caucus goers, and we did, like you just mentioned, we had a jump question that asked those disaffected Democrats and independents who they would then vote for if they were going to participate. And like I said, the overwhelming response, Ron Paul with the crossover vote. And the Republicans need to hear this. They need to pay attention to these numbers. If it's a party game and they want to play a party game and they really want to win, this is the man. His name is Ron Paul, and he can take it all the way to the White House, and he can restore this republic, and he can bring back liberty in America, Alex.
Absolutely. And look, folks,